everybody, and welcome to Couples in Conversations. If this is your first time joining our podcast, welcome. We're so excited that you're here. Please do us a favor, like, comment, subscribe, and then follow us on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Couples in Conversations. If you are looking for a past episode, you can find us using our official hashtag Get In on the Conversation. Super excited about our topic tonight. It has been requested several times, and the topic is Talk Plain to Me. So we're going to dive into managing expectations in relationships. Super excited to talk about it. We kind of hinted on it before, but today we're going to talk all about the ins and outs of that. So very excited to do that. And before we get into that, I want to introduce our panel. We do have my wife, Jennifer James. We have Dem Crawford, Erica, and Jonathan. We have Fowler Nation, Toylise and her husband, Michael. And we have our guest today. We have Johnny J.J. Jones. And then we have the Joneses, Fuchsia, and Josh. Thank you guys so much for joining. Again, like I told you guys, our topic today is Talk Plain to Me, the art of managing expectations in relationships. And like I told you guys, we got several people ask, hey, can y'all talk about this? And hey, how do you guys argue? How do you fight? How do you talk about expectations? So we're going to dive right into that. So managing expectations, how do you effectively and appropriately manage your expectations when you are in a relationship with your partner? We're going to start off with Fowler Nation.
This is a really good question. How I effectively manage my expectations is pretty much I make them known. And then I hate to say this, but I expect my husband to probably do the opposite of what I've requested, which then I have to redirect him. I then have to redirect him and say, yeah, I know you did this, but this is what I was expecting. So there's a lot of redirecting that goes on in our marriage. I can't speak for him, but yeah, so it's not that he lets me down. It's just that once I get his redirecting ministry going on, then we're good to go.
So why do you feel like you have to redirect? Do you feel like when you are initially
because my husband is the type where if I make a request and it's not necessarily conducive to what he feels the business needs of this relationship is, they probably won't get granted. And so I have to, refocus the energy to let him know, yeah, everything will work out better for everybody if you just do it this way. Just do what I ask. We'll save a lot of unnecessariness. Just do it this way. Because when the shoe is on the other foot, I'm gonna do it in most cases, and I'm being very honest. In most cases, I'm gonna do it exactly the way that you ask, even if I don't agree with what your expectations for this situation is. But because I don't want the unnecessariness, I'm just going to go ahead and do it. But that's where I have to work in my redirecting ministry, because he forgets that sometimes when the shoe is on his foot. And now my expectations are the ones that's on the line.
okay? I really wish Michael was here to speak to that because I would love to hear what he has to say about that. But he's not, so we'll revisit this when he comes. Let's go over to them Crawford. Erica, what does this look like in your relationship? How have you found? Is it easy to manage expectations? Is it difficult? What does that process look like for you?
So I don't even know if I like to use the word managing for the most part.
Mhm.
I just feel like early on, and I can only speak from experience, but my thought process is early on in a perfect world, in a really good relationship. I don't want to say perfect, but in a really good relationship, expectations were, discussed, before the relationship even really commenced and got into a, a committed relationship. So those expectations were, given out early on.
Mhm.
And however, I feel like in my relationship, it was not. So it was kind of like trial and error, a lot of trial and error for us. So it was, as things come along, oh my God, I really expected you to do this, but this was the outcome. So it was either an argument, it was a fight, it was never really, well, this is what I wanted out the deal, or vice versa. Well, no, Erica, this is what I wanted out the deal, and this is how it should have been handled, or blase, blase. But I feel like now, like we're getting to a better place where it's not, like as much as a fight anymore. I think we're learning to express how we feel and listen to each other, and not just hear each other speak, but actually listen to what the other person is saying and taking that into consideration. And if that's what you want to call managing, then I guess that's what we're doing. We're having a communication, about the situation. And it just really depends on whatever the situation may be. We're having conversations about it now as opposed to fighting how we used to do before. Like when I say we used to argue, OMG, like we argued a lot,
Mhm.
a whole lot, like a whole lot. But now it's gotten to a better place where we can actually have a communication about the situation, call out what our expectations are, and see if we can kind of work towards it. So I don't know if it's necessarily managing it, but if that's what you want to call it, then that's what I would say. And I think it just got better with time because we're getting older, and even when you're getting older, even in your 20s, you're not as mature as you think. In your 30s, you still sometimes may not be as mature as you think. And I feel like we're both on the brink of being 40. We'll be 40 next year, and I feel like we're getting better. It's like, we age and nice and fine like wine. That's what I think we're doing in our relationship. We're growing together, and that's what I like about it. Sometimes I wish he would be here so he could, give his point of view. But that's how I feel that we're doing. I will hope that he would agree with me, but I think that's how we're handling it.
Okay, we're going over to Love Jones, but I want to, and I recognize that the word managing may be off-putting for some people. So just to clarify, when we talk about managing expectations, in relationships, I have always joked around with you guys in previous episodes. In our relationship, I felt like one day everything that I did was acceptable. We went to sleep. We woke up on Monday. We woke up on Tuesday, and everything that was acceptable on Monday was no longer acceptable on Tuesday. And for me, there was no time for me to regroup, rebuttal, rearrange, reposition. It was just like, this is no longer acceptable. You need to get with the program, and we're moving, and this is where we're at. And I'm like, whoa, but we literally just did this yesterday. So I felt like in that situation, there was no opportunity for me to understand, okay, this has changed. The expectation has moved. And how do I now figure out how to maneuver myself in our situation? So just to clarify what we mean by using the word managing, that's what I meant by like figuring out how you change and how you interpret what somebody is requiring of you now, and then how you execute it. Let's head on over to Love Jones. How does this look for you guys in your relationship?
Okay. Well, I guess the biggest thing for I'm speaking for myself. I of course try my best to make everything as plain as possible. Um, I'm if anybody that really knows me knows that an introverted extrovert. So it's like I really don't like I like my me time. I don't mind being alone. I don't mind being having just my time or whatever. I'm very low maintenance, but I still love like connecting and all of that stuff and but as far as like my expectations of what I need, I'm pretty much okay, with just getting it done by myself. If I do need something or whatever, I mean, I ask, but at the same time, even with the expectations that I have, I'm not really too tied to it. I don't really get I'm weird. I really don't get too upset if it doesn't come out the way that I wanted it to. I understand that things happen or whatever. But there are certain things that I do that she knows that I really care about as far as um I don't know what's something that
That you really care about?
yeah. I don't know. I mean, I care about this stuff. I'm not saying I don't care about anything,
Right.
but I'm really I'm different when it comes to expectations that I set that I have, or as far as like things that I communicate to her. I try to make them as plain as possible. As I try to make it as easy as possible as well. Not that I don't. It has nothing to do with what I feel she can or can't do.
Mhm.
It's just that at the same time, even though I know that I have needs and I have things that I may need from her, um, I don't I don't really put a lot of pressure on it.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, and I'm pretty much okay if it doesn't happen right away. Now, if there's something that I've been asking for over and over again,
Which
and
is never. Which is
yeah,
never.
because I mean, usually, and that's the thing, and I guess the reason I'm like that is because usually what I do ask for, what I do put out there, or what I do let her know as far as what I'm expecting. I mean, she gets it done anyway, so I don't really have a problem of putting it out there and it not happening.
I think we're
Uh,
night and day when it comes to expectations, though, because
definitely.
like even when we first got married, in my mind, I had this set in my mind, of course, no, in my mind, I had this thought of what a husband would be and how he should be.
Mhm.
And as the years went on, I've learned to kind of definitely be flexible in that sense because I am the one that, I think you should just know because I'm the wife and you're the husband
Right.
and this is what you're supposed to do. But definitely being flexible and learning that I have to paint the picture. Like I have to literally, when I send him to the grocery store, I'm telling you to get a bag of carrots, a bag of lettuce, but I'm also going to follow up with a screenshot. This is
Listen,
what this looks like.
yes, I tell her to
So
send me
because I can't
pictures because
expect that he's going to do what I need him to do. So I have to make sure that I'm thorough in that
yes,
aspect. So, and it took me we're in year 12. It took me to year 12 to say, okay, enough of the arguing because him coming home with the wrong letters is not gonna fix it. So what can I do to make sure that we don't end up back here?
right.
So it's definitely been, just a learning experience for the both of us.
But and I guess that's really the only place that I've had an expectation of you is when you're dealing with your expectations of me, because it's like my thing is like I said, like I'm fine if it's not the way that I wanted it. I believe that anything could be fixed. Most things can be
Yeah.
fixed, so I'm fine with it, whatever. But when it comes to her, I know that she's very specific in how she wants things. So, like she said, with the grocery store, I tell her, text me, send me a screenshot. I need a picture because if you say lettuce, I'm gonna get. If you don't say organic, I mean, if I see it, I'm gonna get it. If I don't, I'm gonna just get the first one I see. I don't know, but I know that she's very specific in those things. So it's like my specificity in that, or my expectations of her in that is, if you want it done your way, then communicate to me my way. That's what I need.
Yeah, absolutely. And plain English. I feel that. I'm here for that. Go ahead, JJ. Jennifer over here burning JJ, so talk fast.
I mean, you guys can always go first.
No, go ahead.
All right, yeah. No, I mean, so being the baby couple, I guess out of the group then because we just started dating. Actually, it's crazy because I like she keeps track of certain things that I don't keep track of. Like yesterday was the first date. We yesterday we celebrated a year of after our first date. I didn't even know that. Like our first date was on December 13th. Like okay, or I'm like okay, cool. But but like as far as expectations go, like we're a quarantine couple at this point. Like we've been dating during the COVID virus and stuff like that. And I think also it also plays a part that we were kind of older when we started dating. So we already come in like I said, my tolerance for the stuff I would allow is like here now, and so like she met all those qualifications off the rip, you know, dating at 30 versus dating at 22 when I was probably been more lenient with things. And so I think we kind of knew off rip, like communication was going to be something huge. And so I think for us, that was easier to do. And again, like we've been dating during the pandemic. So, you know, I don't know what that looks like, you know, when we're out of the pandemic and stuff like that. So it's easier to say like, okay, everything's been going smoothly for these last 10 months, you know. But yeah, I think that so far though, all of our expectations have been spot on. Like this is what I'm communicating with her. Like, hey, this is what I expect. This is what I want to happen. You know, these are things that I don't like. These are pet peeves of mine. And she's been able to adjust. And the same thing, like she's been able to say stuff. I think that the only time we really have arguments is when we're driving, because I don't like the way she drives. She don't like the way I drive. And like that was huge though, because you know I'm originally from Michigan and I live in Baltimore, and so our first big, you know, the first time she met my family, we had to drive to Michigan, and you know, so that was a fun trip. And yeah, we like that's the only, like, really we joke about that, but really like that's the only time we really like argue is usually driving. Like, you know, you're driving too close to the lane, or you know, to the other lane or whatever. But yeah, like I also think that too, like we're trying to make this work. You know what I'm saying? Like I think for every time when we're talking about dating, you always want the relationship you're in to be your last relationship. And so like, you know, that was a conversation I also had to have with her on the way to Detroit. Like, you know, I don't want us, just because we're trying to make this work, to just, you know, settle with things that we don't like from each other. So if you really have things that you want to work on, and these are the expectations for that, speak up. You know, and you know, if it's something I feel like I can't adjust to, I'm gonna let you know. And as long as we're communicating and that stays at the forefront of this relationship, then things are gonna work out. So.
Okay, go ahead, babe.
I don't know. I was just thinking about like how you talked about it kind of changed overnight. My expectations never changed overnight. It was my communication style. Because I always had these expectations, but I think because we met at 19, I was, you know, naive and under this assumption that although we came from different families, family values are the same, and family, you know, how people grow up is the same, and that's not true. So the things that I see my dad do, I just automatically assume like that's just what men do, and you were never exposed to that. And so that caused a lot of friction in our relationship. And then also I think going to the idea, and I think mine is more extreme to what JJ was talking about as far as just trying to make it work, I became very passive. And so I was just like, eventually he's going to catch on. He's going to realize, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm supposed to be treated this way, you know, because when I first met you, you called me P31. I was your P31. But I'm like, well, if I'm your P31, then you're going to follow suit and treat me like P31. And I didn't feel like that ever happened. And so obviously, you know, I started building this wall with you. And I think that caused additional issues. And so my expectations never changed. I just started verbalizing them because I realized that I couldn't stay and keep fighting for this marriage if things didn't change. And I felt like me communicating that was the change that would kind of catapult us to a different level. And then kind of also going back to what the Joneses was talking about, as far as it's more of managing Fuchsia's expectations versus Josh. And I think that's really it. Like, you're more laid back like he is. Like, you know, things that you ask for, I do get it done. But if I'm not able to get it done today, like, it's no big deal. You're not able to get done what I need in the past. Oh, it was over. Like, what do you mean that you couldn't get that done? That was your responsibility. Like, and I'm going off. But I think I'm learning to say no. You don't need to emphasize that. You don't need to emphasize that.
Real quick. I just want to put a pause right there, because you know it's not often That acknowledgement.
Shut up.
So when I tell y'all, literally, it was unacceptable. Under any circumstances, was it acceptable for me to not meet an expectation? I mean, she could literally like totally forget. Oh, I forgot, babe. I'm so sorry. And she'll be so distraught, and I'll be like, no sweat. Like it's nothing. We'll do it tomorrow. I forget something. Oh my gosh, this is what I'm talking about. It. How about saying?
Okay, but can we come up to 30-year-old Jennifer? Okay, we done with 20-year-old. We on the 30-year-old Jennifer.
I just want
and
to
I'm saying that was her. Okay.
Okay. Somebody might be dealing with that though.
They heard me when I said
them to hang in there. I hang in there because it changes. Okay, take a little while, but hang in there. Okay.
Anyway, so I think the biggest thing about managing expectation goes back to communication, like communicating what you feel like you need. And yes, it's helpful to do that at the beginning of relationships, but unfortunately, a lot of us that didn't happen, and we're here now. And so, just starting that communication, like it's never too late to develop that skill. And being honest, like even communicating a little bit, is helpful, but you have to build that safe space where you can be completely honest and be okay with your partner saying, I don't know how to do that. But as long as they're willing to try, willing to work on it, and then also giving them the space to work on it. Like I did have the expectation that once I told you, you were just gonna get it. And that's not realistic. And I understand that now. And you're just really hurting yourself by having that expectation that they're just gonna flip it tomorrow when you yourself can't flip it either.
Thanks, babe. I saw your hand, Twillies, were coming to you. I just wanted to say really quick though, JJ said something when he was talking about, him and his girlfriend, they're trying to make it work. So if there are things that don't work, you got to talk about it. One thing that I love about our relationship now is so strange because I hated this thing about our relationship previously. The fact that we have created such a safe and open space for us to communicate expectations without judgment. I love that. Before, it did not matter what it was. If Jennifer had expressed to me that I was not meeting a need or meeting a want, I automatically took offense to it and I was playing defense. And I was just like, no, but I do this, and this, instead of actually understanding. I'm not saying that you're not doing any of those things. Those things are great, but I'm trying to communicate to you that this area right here is where there's an ailment, and this is what I need you to address. So me being so in tune with my emotions, it would always feel like an attack. And I think I've used that word before. Like it, even though she wasn't trying to attack me, I would feel attacked and I would be on the defense. And I was unable to make changes because I was so focused on, why do you have to talk about what I'm not doing well and you won't talk about what I am doing well? Like, when do we hear about that stuff? I want to hear about some of that too. I don't mind accepting that I have an ailment here, but I do want to also hear that I'm doing great over here. And that was something that we had to learn. And that was something that took us to create this space where we talk openly and without judgment. Because I think a lot of times in relationships, we judge what we're going to say in our heads, and we also judge what is being said to us. And neither one of those are part of active listening. So I think if we remove judgment out of that the safety of your relationship, you can really get to a place where you can say, hey, you know what? Hey, this was kind of whack. Like, I didn't like that. Now she can say anything to me, and I'm open. And because I love her so much, and because I see how she responds when I change things, I'm like, I'm looking for it. All right, you want me to, like, because when you get to changing stuff, man, you get more kisses, you get more to things. So now I'll be ready for it. Like, what you got for me today? Like, what's up? Like, I'm ready. So I look for that now, but before it was a wrap. I didn't want to hear it. Go ahead, Toy.
And I just wanted to add to what you guys were, the man and Jennifer, y'all were saying. When you have, I'm sorry.
My name's Frank. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, man. So when you have a partner that, like you were just saying about your wife, that you love and that you adore, it being flexible and not, I hate to use this word, but for lack of a better word, not necessarily settling, but being more understanding about your expectations. That's a good word. Being understanding, because there, when Michael and I, early in our marriage, there were lots of expectations on both uh, ends that we definitely, number one, had to do a lot of growing up, researching, praying, maturing on so many different subjects. For example, one being the actual roles of a husband and a wife. And Michael, and I know he's not here to defend himself because he's working, but he, in the beginning, he had that Stepford wife ministry in his head. And I said, baby, you married the wrong one today. Because I can assure you, yes, I'm a good wife and I'm gonna be a darn good wife. But what you're not gonna do is expect something from me that you're not even willing to give yourself. Not to say, yes, he did go out, and my husband, everybody on this call that knows us personally know my husband has worked since day one. There has never been a time where my husband has not had a job and taken care of his family, and made sure that we have what we needed even when I did not work. But when he came home, he wanted the whole, got on the little checkerboard dress with the apron and the feather dust in my hand. And see, that's where you had life messed up. Long as the house is clean and you got a meal, what does it matter? And see, he was the type that wanted me to walk, because he'll, I don't know if he's ever said it on this platform, but we were having a conversation the other day and he was saying, oh, well, when you was at home, there was plenty of days when I came home, and I'm like, came home and what? Because every time you came home, there was a meal that was cooked, except for Saturday, which I'm still like that. I do not cook on Saturdays. But every time you came home, there was a meal. So that kind of bothered me. But I do feel like because we, like Johnny was saying, when you wanted to work, you understand that some of your expectations may not be right at that peak of 100%, but you're yet still striving to get there. And so that's one of the things that I can say that I do love about my husband, which makes me more understanding to my expectations, because he is a good man, he is a great father and a great provider. So something that would have made me throat chop him, I may just do it in my head and not physically. And I'm sure that's the same way, vice versa. So I just wanted to add that.
All right, go ahead, babe.
No, actually, Chloe's kind of just said it, but it was kind of piggybacking off the what JJ and Tori said about the expectations and being understanding. Like, I think even though I didn't verbalize my expectations, I feel like just growing up, we all develop expectations. But I think that we also have to be aware of the person in which we marry or that we're dating. Because even though I may have expectations, the details of my expectations may not fit you. Like, I did have expectations that, you were going to be like this, my idea of like a manly man of like building houses and fixing everything, because that's what my dad did. Like that, I want this, it's going to be built. Like, I'm not buying it from the store, it's going to be built. And that's not you. That doesn't take away your manhood, but it just, this is, I want things to be taken care of, and so it has to be in a category and not detailed. And I think sometimes we write people off or we get upset because they're not able to fit the detail, but they can still fit the overall category of the expectation. Like, you can still provide and make sure things are taken care of, but in a different way than what my dad has taught me. But that doesn't eliminate the expectation. So it's about tailoring it to your partner that's realistic to them and that also fits your need.
That's good, babe. Thank you for saying that, because that's also something that I know we used to struggle with, because I used to almost feel like compared, like, to her father. And I used to be like, look, I'm not building no house. I'm not going to get no lumber. I'm not. I'm just not. I'm not interested.
But you did try. You remember when you
I
made
did.
that broke down bookcase?
That bookcase lasted a long time. But I did. I did try. I did try, but it just wasn't my thing. And I did feel for a while, again, like we talked before, I was playing the defense, and I did feel for a long time that it was um, very difficult to try to meet that expectation because it was somebody else's expectation is not mine. And I'm like, don't put somebody else's expectation on me because I can't meet that. I can't fit that bill because that's not who I am. That's not what I was created to do. So I appreciate you sharing that. We're gonna move on to our second phase and welcome Kiera. So excited to have you. We're going to go to Love Jones and then we're coming right to you guys. So get ready. So start thinking. So this question specifically was sent in. So I want us to talk about this question and I want us to use real examples of how this works in your relationship. And the question is help. How do we end this argument? In relationships, is it okay to agree to disagree? So we want to dive into that. So we're going Love Jones first, and then we head on down to JJ and then Toys.
I started last time. You guys started.
Okay. So I think we as husband and wife struggled so hard with arguing.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that we kind of identified as one of our issues was when we are arguing, we're trying to get our point across. Like me, I'm trying to get my point across. This is why you made me upset. And then here comes Josh. He's trying to say why he's upset, and we're not listening to each other. And so that was one of the things that we had to really work on was when we're in the heat of the moment, when we're in that heat of moment, we have to really listen to one another, not necessarily focus on trying to get our point across. And it's okay to agree to disagree. However, did I hear what Josh was saying? And did he hear what I was saying? So that we don't end up in the same boat again. And we can move on. Would you agree? Like,
I would agree. My take on the agree to disagree thing is that you still got to remember that it's a marriage, or a relationship headed to a marriage. Um, the point of that is to ultimately become one. So, I mean, agreeing to disagree in the beginning is fine, but and this is just our opinion, my opinion.
yeah.
I had to check.
Yeah.
um, but ultimately, you want to be able to come together, somewhere down the line. Whether and I feel like I really feel like that's a huge part of the sacrifice and the give and take when it comes to marriage, as well. Another thing that really helped us with that part of it as well as with the arguments is that um this might sound weird, but we would also, like, once we were able to calm down and actually get everything, you know talked out, we would sit down and debrief our arguments. We would sit down and talk about what it was that that's how we were able to figure out that we're both, because it would infuriate the both of us that we're both trying to express our feelings, but when you're doing that,
It's like you going round and round.
yeah, like
You're
I
not
can't,
even getting to a result.
yeah, like I can't heal you if if I'm not hearing you. And so that's kind of, we would just be fighting that battle. So we would literally sit down once we got it all together, even if it was the next day or whatever. We would sit down and we would just talk and say, this is what I was trying to express. Oh, I'm sorry, I wasn't even hearing you because I was trying to express this. And so then we started working out, well, from now on, when we had these problems, when you're expressing yourself, I'll address your concerns. Then once we address that, then I'll express mine. And then we could deal with it that way. It takes some time to get there, because even when we, if we dealt with one of our issues first, then that could turn into something else. and we be, and then I'll be mad because I ain't get to express my part. But I understand, I'm just wait till tomorrow, we'll try again. But
Right.
it takes some time.
It's hard to stay the course too, for sure. Because when you're in that moment, you just want to be like, "Blah, blah, blah, blah." So it is hard to stay the course. Let's go down to JJ and Kiera.
Hi everyone, I'm Kiera. So to address the question, I don't know if JJ said this. We don't really argue. We argue when we're driving because he doesn't like how I drive and I don't like how he drives. So like when that happens, we just usually joke about it. So usually like because we're in this pandemic, we only go to like my parents' home. I'm like a product of a blended family, so I go over my dad and my stepmoms or my mom and my stepdads. And like we'll chill over there and like we'll joke with like my stepmom and my stepdad, like, I can't believe JJ cut this, or I can't believe Kira did this. Like we just make it like a funny situation. But like when there's times when it's serious, it's usually based off of like my feelings. It could have been something that was misinterpreted on his end, well, on my end. So like we're talking about something and I may have not felt comfortable about it. I'll tell him like a few hours later, like, that kind of bothered me or that upset me. And like we'll talk through it. He'll like hear me out and let me like express how I was feeling. And from that point, like I just realized like I really misinterpret everything that he said. And like I just threw in like, well, I'm the victim instead of actually being the one that's more attentive to like what he's communicating.
Yeah, and I mean, that's obviously a part of growing, for sure. Like, and again, 22-year-old JJ would have been like, man, you, I'm about to go to the crib. But like that's a part of growing, because it took me a while to understand, like, a lot of stuff hits her like internally, and sometimes she would we're going through that reading mind phase, like that what Jennifer was talking about earlier, and it's like, okay, and then we began to kind of learn each other, like, if this is something that she's going through, all right, let me figure out what's going on, and I kind of I love what the Joneses were saying earlier about that, learning to become one, and the agreeing and how that ties into the agreeing to disagree part, because, again, like I said, in that whole trying to make this work, what I'm saying? Like, I never want us to become complacent to the fact that, like, all right, this is something I really, really can't stand. And then you did it, but I'm trying to make this work. So I'm not going to argue about that. You know what I'm saying? Like, and sometimes sometimes talking about stuff is necessary. And so I think that that's a part of growing.
So I feel very differently about agreeing and disagreeing. I don't think and this is my opinion.
Just his opinion.
In my opinion, in relationships, it's not okay to agree to disagree. And let me explain what I mean by that. You're two different people. You come from two different backgrounds. You come from two different upbringings, and you are coming together to create one life together. And while I understand that, and while I believe that there's going to be a lot of differences along the way, there's going to be a lot of, even talking about she just thought that I was about to build this house. I'm not doing it. But that's just because that's not who I am. That in my book was not a disagreement. That was this is your expectation. I can't do that. But what I can do is ensure that I am financially capable of purchasing that. The whole agreeing to disagreeing thing for me, if we can go way, way, way back, probably to like episode 3, somebody said agreeing to disagree and somebody takes an L, somebody takes a loss. And I think when you say that you agree to disagree, somebody does take a loss. When you're in a relationship and we have difference of opinions, we come together, we talk about them, and we decide what the best course of action is. I don't think that is oh, well, you think this way, I think this way, we'll do it this way, but I still don't agree kind of thing. Because if we're not coming together and making a cohesive decision, because if you can stand in that you don't agree with something and you do it just because, we can feel it. You're going to be able to feel that. that somebody is just going through the motions. And I don't want you to go through the motions. I want you to be in the ring. I want you to be fighting with me, and I want us to be fighting the fight together. The agreeing to disagree thing, the agreeing to disagree thing for me doesn't work.
I disagree.
I'm reclaiming your time because Erica raised her hands. So reclaiming your time, you go after Erica. Go ahead.
But I thought Solis was before me.
Did you have your hand up? Sorry.
Mrs. Crawford, that's integrity at its finest, okay? But I just wanted to say, I have to start off my comment by I just thank God for change, because when Michael and I first got married, there was no agreeing to disagree. It was agree with me or deal with pissed off twinnies. So I thank God that he has definitely changed. I'm telling y'all, he taught me how to be a wife. I promise you, he taught me how to be a wife. So I thank him for his teaching and allowing, us to be able to deal, to get to growing and get to knowing each other and things like that. And currently, when it comes to, when Michael and I, when we have our intense fellowship moments, it starts off as the the unstoppable force meets the immovable object. So we're both standing our ground. This is my point, and that is his point. And it's not until I believe it's Kiara when she said, just you have to take a step back and think and really understand what it is that's trying to be said. Because if you're disagreeing with me, I used to feel, well, you're my husband, you're not supposed to, why are you, we're the combat is not here. This is not where we combat out here. We don't combat in here. And so I used to always get so defensive when when we had a disagreement. And now I am more prone to just take a step back and let me really hear what you're saying. Let me not just pretend like I'm listening, because that's what I used to do, because I didn't care. But let me now hear what you're saying, and then maybe we can move from there. Have there been times when Michael and I have had a situation where we just did not see eye to eye? Absolutely. But I don't think that ties into our oneness. I most definitely don't. It's just that he feels this way, I feel this way. But that does not, I don't think that weighs down our unity and our union. Is we are two, at the end of the day, we are two people that are one, but we still are two individuals. So his way of thinking is his and mine is mine. Just like I told y'all earlier, he wanted somebody in an apron with a pie in their hand when he came home from work. That never happened. But we're stronger now than we've ever been in the years that we've been together. And that was early in the marriage. To respond to what you were saying, man. I'm sorry, man. What'd you say? I'm sorry, what?
I said you can get an apron and a pie. It's okay.
And I have on occasions, but your brother-in-law was expecting that every day. And so, I had to remind him, you need to get your head out the clouds, because you're in la la land somewhere. Not to say that it's wrong for you to want that, but don't want that from me, because that's an expectation that probably will never be met unless I feel like I want to put on an apron and have a pie ready for you when you get home from work. But now like I said, that was, back then, but where we are now, he states his claim, I state my claim, and then we find that equilibrium.
All right.
And if that's where we meet, we can still feel the way we want. But like the Joneses said, you got to find that. You got to find that. You still have to have that oneness, and you can still have that after intense fellowship. I think that everybody on the call is doing good.
All right, go ahead, E.
So, like, this is something that I really struggle with, because I totally get everyone's point, and I'm not naive to believe, that hey, we are individuals. Before there was, a Jonathan, there was a Erica, and vice versa. Jonathan is his own man, Erica is her own woman. And I'm not stupid enough to believe that we are, we're individuals. We're going to think totally different things. So I agree with what Tolise is saying. However, I think it really depends on how trivial the disagreement is. If Jonathan comes to me and say, oh, I think that dress was olive green, and I turn around and say it's lime green, okay, we can agree to disagree. It's just a green dress.
Right.
However, if it is something deeper than that, I feel like we need to have some kind of connection and some oneness to make sure that we are in agreement, because you never know. Those type of situations can come back up. They can resurface. And if you don't tackle it and don't take care of it and make sure, not necessarily taking the L, but come to some kind of compromise, it can be a problem later on, because you can sit up there and say all day long, okay, yep, you know what, Frank, thank you so much for that, that case, thank you for that bookcase, even though I'm looking at it, you know what I mean? You have to, I feel like if it's something deeper, it can't just be agree to disagree. You have to really find out what the root cause is and handle the issue, even if we both walk away feeling like, because there's times where we may walk away and nothing is resolved, and that could fester and become a bigger problem or a bigger issue. So I feel like in some scenarios, yes, it's okay to say agree to disagree, but I feel like when it gets really deeper to the, where it'll really affect that oneness like we're supposed to have, then that means that's a deeper conversation, and we can't walk away saying, okay, well, you know what, go ahead. But then, like Frank said, later on, oh, I'm gonna feel it later. Trust me, I'm gonna feel it. I'm gonna know that you're still upset about the situation. I'm gonna know that you're still affected by it. So I feel like, and there's, even with Jonathan and myself, I feel like there's a couple items that still, like, we're still trying to work through. We haven't had that actual conversation yet that we need to have, because those situations, they still pop up and they still resurface, and it still becomes a bigger argument than what it needs to be. But we haven't matured enough to, tackle that just yet. I'll just put it out there like that. But I feel like you do, at some point, you have to really tackle it and not necessarily call it a L, but an opportunity for you all to compromise and then make it a winning situation for, we're going to make it a winning situation for the Crawfords one day, but today just ain't the day. But we're going to make it a winning situation one day. And I feel like you have to be able to agree and not just say, I'm just going to disagree, especially if it's going to affect a relationship.
Absolutely. Go ahead, babe.
No, mine kind of goes back to what Erica is saying. I do believe that there are some minute things that it's okay to agree to disagree. But I also feel like there are some major things that you can agree to disagree, but it's not, I don't think it's ever taking an L, because it is unity and it is a relationship. So no one is ever taking an L, because at the end of the day, it's about you too. But I mean, when I say you can agree to disagree, we come from two different backgrounds. We have two very different careers. And so my insight on something is probably always going to be different on some level to yours. And so my perspective on the situation may never change. I'm the right eye, you're the left eye. I see through something different. And my perspective helps to bring us together and us be able to walk straight. But I can say this over here is a roadblock, and you say it's not, and I can say okay, and we can go about the day, and we can agree to disagree, and yet it may impact us a little, but I don't allow it to impact, because of maturity, the fact that at the end of the day, I still want to work on this partnership. I still want us to be able to walk along. So I feel like the only way that agreeing to disagree can really impact the relationship is when immaturity is present. But you can be mature in your agree to disagree, because I don't have to change my perspective to know that at the end of the day, my man is the leader and this is what we're going through. And if me agreeing to disagree is shown later, I'm being immature because my behavior is changing, not my perspective. My perspective shouldn't necessarily automatically impact my behavior.
So what do you, sense? Yes, but what do you mean by agreeing to disagreeing is only an issue when immaturity is present? Because using your scenario, If you're the right eye, I'm the left eye, you see something on your side, driving, for instance.
Mhm.
If I am in the driver's seat and you're in the passenger seat, and I'm driving and you see something that I don't see, you see a person on the side of the road in my blind spot, and you tell me, babe, slow down, somebody's right here in your blind spot. What in that kind of situation would be a no, nobody's there, so let's just agree to disagree? That wouldn't be, I mean, you cover my blind spot.
No.
So what would be a situation where immaturity is present and it will be okay to say, let's just agree to disagree?
So if I'm telling you that there is something here and you're like, oh, I don't see it, and I'm going to keep going, and you're like, well, let's just drop it, let's agree to disagree or whatever. For you, I would be like, no, I really need you to swerve over here, and you're going to agree to disagree, but you're still going to follow him. But you're saying that you would have hidden animosity against me because I made you do something that you didn't really want to do because I told you to turn, right? You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, but that's not necessarily what I'm saying.
But listen, this is my example.
Right.
I'm telling you to turn. You really didn't want to do it, but you did it anyway because I said that we needed to do this because I'm the director over this side.
Mhm.
Your immaturity means that you ruin the rest of the day because you feel some type of way because I decided to take lead and tell you what to do instead of me listening to you. That's immaturity. Whereas whereas you didn't see it, we have two different perspectives. We agreed to disagree, but we still went the course. And we discussed it later, but you don't allow it to impact the rest of our day. You can take that moment for that moment versus taking it for the entire day.
Yeah, well, see, that in that sense, I agree with you. I agree that we can have different perspectives. So you are.
But a lot of agreeing to disagree is because of different perspectives.
Yeah, but I think your perspective can be different, but I don't think you can fundamentally decide we're just not going to agree here. So. Because
but a lot of times that your point and what you're stating is based off of your perspective, how you have been raised or how you see things is why I don't agree with what you're saying.
Yeah, and I get that. I just don't like that whole.
You just don't like the words, but you're
like
agreeing to disagree with me right now.
I'm not.
So you agree with me or you agreeing to disagree?
No, what I'm saying is I think we're saying two different things, but I'm reclaiming our time. Go ahead, Toy.
I just want to say that this little James conversation just reminded me of a perfect example of, as Erica was saying, addressing deeper themes so that they don't affect the relationship. Now, Michael and I, we have 5 children. And I categorize myself as a mother with teens and toddlers because my little 2 are 4 and 6. Now, when the big 3 were little, growing up, if they did, they knew. I didn't speak more than once. Once you understood what I was saying and you were able to, cognitively, I knew you were woke. I'm not speaking more than once. You're going to do what I said or you're going to get your behind toe up. And that was how it was. And that was on period. The big 3 are now teenagers. And everybody on this call that knows my kids know that my kids are not like some other kids their age because they're now 13, 15, and 13, 14, and 16. And even now, when I ask them to do something, I don't have to speak more than once. And then most of the things that they do, I don't even have to tell them. Them little 2, me and my husband, and I need everybody on this call to pray for me because those little 2, they, in Michael's eyes, they do no wrong. And they could be wrong as wearing 2 left shoes, but they do no wrong. And so me, I haven't changed. I'm going to whoop the skin off your behind if you listen, because I don't have time. It's 5 of y'all. I'm outnumbered. I'm trying to do this, and this. I don't have time for y'all not to listen to what I'm saying. So when they act up, I come and I lay it down. But for Michael, he gets upset with me because he says, you so mean and you act like you don't even like them. And I'm like, no. I said, because tell me where I changed. Because you the one that changed. I don't know what it was, but I personally feel like maybe he felt like he did something wrong with them big three, although I don't know what it possibly could have been, because they are really good kids. And I'm not saying that because they belong to me, but they are really good kids.
Yeah.
So I'm like, what exactly is it that you felt that you did was wrong? Because the little two, I'm telling you, if y'all see me on the news at 11, you know it's because of one of them little two. Because they try, and when he's now, for example, right now he's at work. When it's just me and my children, I have no problems with the little two because they know I will take you there and bring you back. But soon as that daddy walked through the door, it's all out the window. And now I'm mean and I'm this and I'm that. And I'm like, oh, I said, oh, you just wait. Because guess what? Those are girls. I know how they gonna be. I know how a bratty girl is. I said, so you just wait. And this is something that we agree to disagree. And this is a deep situation because this is something that can possibly affect them. Not so much us and our personal relationship, but it can affect them, which then gonna piss me off because I told you, but you didn't listen. So y'all pray for me because I feel like my husband feels like these little two are his redemption because I can't have any more kids. Well, I can have kids, but he can't because he done messed around and did that retarded stuff. But he went and got fixed. So but yeah, this is that once again that unstoppable force meets immovable object because you the way that he treats them, it's like he treats them like they're glass, like they're gonna break, but they're around here breaking everything. And I'm like, you know what? Okay, but like I said, when it's just me and them, I don't have to call their names. But when Michael is home, that's when they really get whoopings. And I told them, you're not really their kryptonite. You the one get them messed up. You the one, because when you're gone, I don't have a problem with the little two. I don't have a problem. So you need to rethink that. And let's have this
We're gonna have to revisit this when my brother get on here because you might be trying to comfort him in a way that
I'm telling you.
I'm reclaiming your time. Thank you guys so much. This has been super, super, super great conversation. To the people that sent in these questions, I really hope you were listening and picking up some of these nuggets on how you get into these conversations, how you talk about these things, and really creating that safe, open, and honest space within your relationships because you have to do it. You have to have it. And in order for you guys to be successful, you got to create that environment at home that is free of judgment, where you can openly express what your expectations are and that you can talk about when someone is meeting and when they are not meeting those expectations. So thank you guys so much for tuning in today to our panel, to our guests. Thank you guys. You guys have been amazing. Again, if this is your first time joining our channel, please like, comment, and subscribe on our page here. You can follow us on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Couples and Conversations using our official hashtag #GetInOnTheConversation. Until next time, remember, communication is everything. We'll see you guys next time with Couples and Conversations.